in to burn rubber and making motors blow. So what the school asked her just how fast she liked to go. She said, how many cube inches you got where it counts? I told her 425 inch, but my motor mounts. She's a hot rod whore. Hot rod whore. Hot rod whore. Hot rod whore. I'm not even up for her. She didn't stay up for her. She's a hot rod whore. Hot rod whore. Hot rod whore. Hot rod whore. And I'm in my rod to pose. She's a hot rod whore. Well, she's in no top pistons. Salt and brake chest too. And a vulnerable and a positive touch and rate turns her to go. Fat head, no head, give her the kind of head buddy your table wag. You got a head sitting on your hood. It's in the bag. She's a hot rod whore. Hot rod whore. Hot rod whore. Hot rod whore. Bitch, you don't need to know your son. Just your token power. She's a hot rod whore. Hot rod whore. Hot rod whore. Hot rod whore. Bitch, I'm in my rod to pose. She's a hot rod whore. Hot rod.
That's right. It's that time of the week. It's Jeff's Garage Podcast. We are here. We are live. Once again, always on the Nonsensical Network, also on the Jeff's Garage Podcast YouTube channel, and the Nonsensical Network YouTube channel, and the Nonsensical Network Facebook channel. We are live once again, and we have, of course, the supercar guru with us. Benji's in the house. How you doing today, sir?
I am fantastic. How are you, Jeff?
Excellent. I'm doing excellent. It's one of those weird weeks, but and my kids play music. We're gonna start off the new kind of favorite thing that we're doing that we talked about earlier is we're gonna start off with the do you need this tool? And as I said, I got a little video here. It's about 1:19 about this new product that I think you and I talked about it a few minutes ago. I think this is something we need. So let's go ahead and check this out.
Take a look. Streams of muddy black substance flow out of the pipes. This isn't about making Play-Doh. Any product related to metal pipes will eventually rust inside over time. The twisted pipes make it impossible for regular cleaning machines to clean. Hence, this black substance was invented. Its name is abrasive flow. Its main job is to polish the inner walls of various pipes. As seen from the outlet, it mainly consists of silicon dioxide or carborundum mixed with a soft carrier. Because carborundum is hard and wear resistant, having the carrier take them through the pipes once will polish the inner walls clean and carry out the dirt. If once isn't enough, then go for another round. Like the machine we see now, the abrasive flow is poured into the machine's piston. As the piston presses down, the abrasive flow is squeezed out of the outlet and returns to the piston, waiting for the next compression. It's worth mentioning that the viscosity of the fluid varies, so does its function. When the viscosity is higher, the grinding effect is stronger, suitable for workpiece polishing. Otherwise, it's more suitable for removing surface burrs. Using this process to clean the inner walls of pipes is not only effective, but also low cost, making it very suitable for cleaning car parts. How about that? Isn't it amazing?
So like I said, that's the product is something flow, adverse flow. That's pretty cool. I mean, that's I don't think it's something that you can necessarily have in your shop, but it would be definitely something that, like, if you're rebuilding your motor, or, you know, whether it be motorcycle, car, truck, you know, and especially like I just watched a video the other day on YouTube. These guys are rebuilding a flathead deuce, you know, 32 motor, you know, been around since 1932. You know, the inside looks like shit. So using that product, I mean, and it seems fairly inexpensive. A couple $100 getting your motor internals cleaned to brand new and polished, which means better flow, more horsepower, the whole 9 yards. That's a win in my book.
For sure. I don't know if mechanics will be able to use that product. Because that might be a little bit
like on a day-to-day.
Yeah, because, you know,
it's a process. It's not something small.
Correct. So I don't know, but it'd be really cool. I mean, if it really works like the video shows, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the firecracker, that little black snake you light up and it spreads out. That's what it reminds me of.
Exactly what I thought when I first saw it. I was like, so it's a black cat and then you just
Yeah.
light it. But my
It's
other
really
thing
freaking
is
cool, man.
the only issue I have, and they don't really address it in the video. What about the excess? There's going to be excess. You got to get the rest of it out of the motor.
Wonder if it just burns up. But
I
like
don't know.
liquid heat and liquid, like it'll just
That's
dissolve a
that's
little bit.
possibly. And like if it finds a crack, will it fill the crack? You know.
I don't think it would fill the crack. I think it's kind of like almost like a soft sandpaper, maybe. It's
That's
kinda
what I'm
just-
thinking. It's
Yeah.
because anybody that's ever polished their intake or the internals of the intake to actually get better flow, it's not a small job. It creates a big mess. This does the same thing. Yeah, you might have to run it through two or three times, but at the end of the day, it's a time saver. Because if you've ever taken a die grinder and cleaned out those intake ports, it's a bitch. It's not something you do. It's a full day job. Where this, you can set it, let it run its course, and then go do something else while it's doing that. Now you mentioned
I'd like to see how they sell it. If it's so
Agreed.
many ounces or whatever, is it based
Gallons
off
or
any
whatever.
size, like a 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder V8? It's because it's not just a one size fits all, right? And they're there to make money. Obviously, if I don't know, it's kind of weird. It's a really weird product.
I don't think it's out yet. I think they're just kind of advertising it. It's not going to be the problem with automotive tools and certain things like that. They're not. You don't see the ad and then the next day see it in Walmart or something like that.
Correct.
It's going to be a specialty item. It's not every shop is going to have it or need it or even want it, and so it's going to be a couple years before it comes mainstream. But I think it's a great product. I think it'll be something like I would, if I had a custom shop or a rebuild shop, I would totally add it to my repertoire.
Yeah, it's neat. It's different.
It's I assume it can be added to any kind of press. Like I'm sure it's got like some sort, like if you just buy the paste itself, it's not like you can just use a bicycle pump to put it in. You have to use some sort of machine to do it. So it's going to be a pricey setup, but long term, it's going to pay for itself because you can have 12 parts lined up, one right after the other, just boom, 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 or even do multiple parts at the time.
It'll be good for a hot rod shop, right?
Agreed. It's like I said, I don't think you would see it in your local Dodge dealership that you go in to get service.
No.
It's going to be definitely for the aftermarket or repair shop, because my first thought was this: I had a '97 Dodge Neon, and there's a part on the transmission that actually would constantly get clogged up that you would have to replace. It was like a $400 part. And the owner of the shop said, dude, if I had something that I could clean it out with, I'd have it working tomorrow. But there is nothing to clean it out with, so we have to buy you a new one. This would have solved the problem.
Interesting.
So
you guys think the applications, hot rod shop, race teams,
100%.
things like that. It's not really a DIY thing. You know what I mean? You kind of need to.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, if unlimited budget in my shop, oh yeah, I'd have it. I might never use it, but it's nice to know it's there.
Yeah, because you've almost got to have. You've got to have the quantity of work to be able to say this justifies the cost of not having somebody do this, for hours on end, right?
Well, and there's certain parts on I'd say 99.9% of motors that I don't care what you do, you can't reach it.
Correct.
Even if you throw a snake in there, you're not going to get to every part, and you're not going to know without one of those telescopic camera things to see if you got it, or am I getting it? Oh no, I got to check again. It becomes more time consuming. I think it would be something great for it. Not necessarily it's a novelty, but it's not going to be in your local muffler shop.
It's a specialty, not a novelty.
Exactly. It's a specialty item, but I think it's kind of a new toy that
Yep.
if I was like, if I was Roy Brizio building some of the most beautiful 32 Fords on the planet, I would definitely want this in my shop.
Yep.
As a local or as a shade tree mechanic, no, I don't need it.
No, you're
Because-
not tearing the engine down that far. And
Yeah.
if you are, there's a bigger
I
problem.
love
Right? You're coming in with a new motor from the junkyard.
Exactly. Well,
You know.
and that's where this could actually help. We talked about you and I talked about the guy on, is it Netflix? He has that Rust to the Canadian dude.
Yep.
He
Rust
did.
Bros.
Yeah, that guy. He builds. He takes the old motors. This would be something in his shop.
100%. This could be a useful product to that guy. Because when season 5 ended, he sold all of his cars off. So I don't know if
Right.
there's going to be a season 6.
I don't
but
know.
He had 600 cars.
Yeah. Well, and all of them were in various states of. I don't want to touch it because disrepair is a light term. It's more of a different shades of tetanus shot, because some of them were like you could see through it,
Yep.
But God love him, he did some amazing work. He's kind of a goofy guy, and I get that, and I think it'd be cool to hang out with him. But
are you talking about Wildman? The one because there's two different guys on Rust.
Well, the guy with the dreads.
Okay, yeah. His name's Mike. His
Yeah,
name's
Mike. And
got the real raspy voice.
Yeah, and then the Wildman guy, the bald guy, he's actually gotten his own shop.
Yeah, Wildman. His name's Avery.
Yeah, the two of them together crack me up. They're
Fucking
basically
hilarious,
walking Aztecs. They're walking accidents.
Oh yeah. They're one of my favorite shows, and I don't really want to get into it because I want to do a show about
we have a show planned for that, but tonight and that kind of leads us into tonight's subject. He does found object kind of thing, granted they all sit out in the field, and tonight we're talking about the ultimate barn find. And I have a video, and the video, as you and I mentioned, is a boring video, so we're going to talk over it. And I'm going to share my screen to show this video. It's on YouTube. So we're going to play this because this I'm so jealous of this guy. I don't get jealous. I'm not a jealous person, but this guy just makes me extremely jealous because he lucked out in a way where you and I will never luck out. So we're going to play this video and kind of talk over it. And I'm going to mute the music because it's crap. But as you see, a New York man retired, wanted to use his retirement money wisely, so he bought a few acres in Portugal. Him and his wife, obviously. And it's such a slow video. The farmhouse was old. The old owner had died, sold to the government. The New Yorker couple just bought it and recovered it in Texas. This was on the property. This is the barn. And it was
hell of a barn.
Yeah, it's not, when you say barn, it doesn't really pop in your head.
Structure, right?
Yeah. And as you see, there's no real windows. It was welded shut. And because I've done some research on it, you can see right there the welds. It was welded shut, and the original sellers, the property company, didn't want to spend the time and money to open it up to find out what was in it. So the old man got curious, and he bought a generator and a couple of heavy-duty grinders, and he cut through the welds. And what he found is why I'm jealous. There it is. The ultimate barn find. There is, how many cars? Do you remember?
I mean, that's remember. It was 180 something?
Yeah, I believe the total amount of these cars is about $6 to $8 million.
Hold on. Yeah.
As they sat.
It's got to be up there.
Because, granted, it's Portugal, so you're not going to get a whole lot of your American cars, Austin Healey's, Volvos, there's some Porsches in there. But every one of them they're not in disrepair. They're just dirty as shit.
There's a couple that look like there was parts cars, but it was very few and far between.
Well, that Lancia is not necessarily the most beautiful.
Well, you get
one
into
there.
The Healeys, you get into those Porsches and a couple of these Mercedes. Like, that's your money. Like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Like, it's
and
big money.
And there's more to this story. I mean, there's some Fiat race cars right there.
Yeah,
Those are
if they could figure out who drove those cars, they could drive up the price too.
well, that's
And
true, but not only
they were F1
well,
race cars.
well, I actually learned about this today. I was doing a little bit of research. $35 million is the worth of the. Oh my God, what an asshole! Those God love him, and I'd love to be his new best friend. I don't necessarily want any of the cars. I just want to, let me clean them. Let me make sure they run. Let me play with them. You don't have to give me any. You don't have to give me any money. Just let me tinker. But those race cars during the time of during the Cold War, Formula One was a big thing in Europe and the U.S. Well, people beyond the Iron Curtain that was controlled by all them guys, they would get pictures of Formula One cars and build their own, and they're called Formula. Oh, I just heard it today. They use a 1.3 liter Lada engine, which is, you're talking maybe 200 horsepower, and that's after you build the piss out of it. But that Formula series, I can't remember what it's called. I just watched a thing on it. If you and I were to go to build a race team, and we said we're gonna run a race team, how many tires do we need for the year?
Oh wow!
Exactly.
It depends on how many races you do, but you need
Right.
multiple sets per race.
Well, this Formula series, your set of tires had to last the entire season.
Sure, when you're in a situation
because you had
that.
no fucking money,
Yeah.
and they were basically robbing Peter to pay Paul to build these cars. They were the steering rack was from a Soviet style van, and the front suspension and A-arms and all that came from a I think it was a Triumph car. The rear suspension was basically straight axles. I mean, they built these things.
So kind of like how Cuba is right now with their cars, American cars, that they cannot get parts for.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so that guy has those cars. And like I said, I cannot remember the name. I was just watching it on what's it called? Grand Tour. They did that the Sand Job series season 2. Richard Hammond actually got to drive one, and they're amazing cars, and they're not quite necessarily what Formula was back then, what Formula One was back then, but they are that interpretation using that Lada motor and the 1.3, maybe 200 horsepower, but they're beautiful cars. So he's got a couple of those in there. He's got a couple American cars in there. There's cars from the 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s in that garage.
Yep.
And
a couple from the 50s.
Yeah. And there's
he's got a Ford that's in like the 30s or 40s, maybe.
Yeah, that first picture. So at the very
it's
front
like a green one or something. There
was a maroon one there too.
Yeah, and it looked like 60 was his era though that he liked the most.
Well, and it's a crazy thing. There's another story about the ultimate bargain find in the States. This guy, he had a small business, nothing crazy. He made enough. Everybody assumed he just made enough money to take care of his family. Well, when he died, it turns out he had 130 cars that the family didn't even know he had.
Oh, wow.
But he had them stashed in buildings he had bought over the years.
Nice. Hey, Steven.
And not just the cars, but he had like the memorabilia and the dealership stuff and neon signs and all this crazy cool shit. And nobody knew he had it. And for me, I'm kind of like, what a waste of Like me, if I would have had that, oh man, I'd be like, dude, you guys got to get out of my car collection. But I think it comes down to his wife was not a car person. She was like, you only need one car. And he's like, yeah, we'll see about that. But barn finds they're harder and harder to find. Like now, if you go to a barn, you're going to find like a Buick Century from, 92 and nobody cares. Yep. But a barn find like what this guy found is right up there with the holy grail of barn finds.
I kind of agree with that.
Well, granted, this guy, he maybe spent, let's say on the high end, he spent, because it's Portugal, this was a couple of years ago, I think it was like 10 years ago this happened. Let's say he spent $100 grand or 130 grand. He put 130 grand and he got 35 million out of it.
I just wonder where because it's just importing, right? All those cars are like 99% imported.
Not necessarily, because it's Portugal, so it's Spain. A lot of them are European cars. There are a lot like
they don't transfer between countries. You have to import them. You have to pay import tax.
Right.
Everything.
But with those cars, they had dealerships in the area. So he just bought them used and for really cheap. It's kind of like
we were talking about the story of why he collected
exactly.
And then just let them sit, and the mindset of
I don't think he let them
these doors shut. So
I don't think he necessarily let them sit. I bet you the original owner, he was out there wrenching on that shit all the time, or
if
out
that's the case, then it doesn't look like he's been out there. The earliest would maybe be mid-90s. I mean, that dust was thick.
Yeah, agreed. And I think what happened is the guy got too old. Sure. Maybe he got Alzheimer's or something like that. So one day he was like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't want nobody to steal my car collection. So he grabbed a welder, welded shit up, and then lived out the last 20 years of his life puttering around the house. Thanks, buddy. And obviously he didn't have any family. He didn't busted rubber. How you doing, buddy? He didn't have family, or if he did, they had moved around.
Was it just him, or did he have a wife?
Well, what happened was the original story, and there's actually a full written story that I've read. What happened was this old man lived in this house that this couple from New York retired and bought the house. And the old man that lived there had spent all these years collecting these cars. And like I said, as he got older, he welded the doors shut and died in the house. Then for 10 years, nobody lived on the property, and then it got turned over to the government. The government was like, well, let's fucking sell it. And the real estate company that was put in charge, they're like, what do we do about this barn? They're like, well, it's going to cost this much money to cut it open, and there's probably nothing in there. So they're like, fuck it, let's not cut it open. So they sold it as is. And this couple retires from New York, and they're like, let's go live in Spain, where we can live pennies on the fucking dollar, what we would here in the States. And they found this farm out in the middle of nowhere, and they said, let's fucking buy it. And they bought it. And the guy that bought it, the retired guy that bought it, was sitting there, and he's like, you know what? I wonder what's in there. So he went out and he bought a generator. He bought a couple of grinders. And him and his wife cut open the doors. And when they opened the doors, they probably had small heart attacks, because there's $35 million worth of cars there. Now, granted, I'm not sure.
I'm not. Is definitely what you're having.
Oh, I would have had to change my skivvies.
Yeah, even if you don't know exactly what you're looking at.
Yeah, right there. You recognize a car collection when you see it. It's not like there were a bunch of fucking Honda Civics laying around, which would still be worth something. But they're mint condition 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s cars, and the heyday of car making. So even as a non-car person, you see it and you're like, yeah, this is worth something. And like my thought was, okay, maybe we don't have the money to keep all these, but let's sell some of the ones we don't care about, like those Formula, I think they're called Formula Carriage, the Formula cars. Let's sell
Yeah.
a couple of those, and we can buy batteries for all these and wash them all, and then we have a really nice car collection. Or we'll, as we
I
need
don't
money,
know.
we'll sell one.
I don't think it's that simple with that collection. I mean, those cars, even if they've been sitting there, let's say 10 years at most, right?
Right?
Man, you've got even
The paperwork alone, it's got to be insane.
Yeah, but man, just to get them in startup order
Agreed.
is quite the task, right?
But the beauty of it is you don't really need to, because you get the right car collector out there, and they come in, they're like, holy shit, you're sitting on a fucking gold mine. How much do you want for that one? I'll give you 50 grand for that one right there. And you're like,
Yeah, well, I
yeah,
was kind of
okay.
going off of what you were saying, like, go and sell a few that you don't want, and then try to get a few going that you want to keep.
Right.
Yeah, but you're almost not. You're not taking this to a shade tree mechanic, right?
Right.
You're
No,
taking this to super high end, someone that can handle a car of that caliber, who can even get the freaking parts. I think some of these cars, some of those Mercedes, man, I don't
you're
even
not
know if you
getting
can even
parts.
get the parts for them, right? Some of
That's
them's got to
true.
probably be special made, or you're going to have to go to a junkyard, or you're going to have to get just whatever. But I mean, hell, even someone to come in and just pressure wash what you have to get them, just let's just say cleaned up, not even spick or
Not
span,
even
just
detailed,
cleaned up.
just so that you're not afraid to touch it.
You got to be looking at 10,000 plus.
Exactly.
I mean, just
But
the
like,
sheer labor
even if,
getting the vehicles out
yeah,
is
that's another thing, because every
that's
one of
a
those batteries is dead. We know
yep.
this.
Tires
And
have went to shit, everything.
yeah, the brakes are seized up, I guarantee it. But you get the right, I mean, at the very minimum, if you're not a car guy, you get the right car guy in there and say, look, I'll sell you the entire fucking lot. How much?
If you can
And
get
then,
if you could
you
get
know,
15 million out of it as is, you take it and run.
oh, 100%. 100%.
Yeah. You let
So
somebody else deal with the logistics of that nightmare, the mechanical nightmare. It's just the whole entire
exactly.
nightmare that's
One
going
second.
to be. You might
Sorry, my dog got loose.
no, you're good. Yeah, you might want to keep one or two.
Right. Yeah, I
But
wouldn't
you
be
already
keeping them
have
all.
somebody lined up that can you immediately start doing your research. Or
Oh,
maybe
100%.
whoever's coming in that could buy that whole lot, you go in there and say, "Hey, I'm going to keep these two." They might even be willing to say, "Let us take them in. We'll
We'll
fix them
fix them
up."
up for you.
We've
Yeah,
got the contacts of
and
the people who can do that kind of
and
work.
we'll take a couple bucks off this original side. Like Richard Rollins, I just watched a video. Richard Rollins was doing an allotment where he was selling like 35 cars.
He's big into
And
that now. That's really
yeah,
became his business is buying multiple cars at one time.
well, and he just got offered for an allotment of like 12 cars. 12
Yep.
cars. Over $1 million. And he was like, I don't know. He ended up selling for 1.2 for like 8 cars. This guy's got 60 plus. Granted, Richard Rollins were all running and driving and gorgeous, but you could easily get for that collection on the low end. I don't know. Find him. Dog's loose. You could easily get, 2-3 million minimum for half that lot, and then keep the other half. Or even hell, you could probably sell some of the rarer ones, because there was a couple of BMW race cars there.
Yeah.
And if, like as you said, if you tie them to a driver, like a famous driver, shit, that one car will get you a couple million.
Yeah, sky's the limit at that point. Yeah,
You know,
I think again, if this was me, I'm
that's
probably
like going out to
selling.
your grandpa's yard and like, wait, you have a Richard Petty stock car here.
It'd be
And
insane.
grandpa's like, I didn't know. That's a $30 million car right there.
Yeah.
So
I think if it's me, I'm probably selling 95% off.
yeah, agreed.
It's
I
just
wouldn't want
it's
to keep
just too
all of them.
much. Yeah, it's too
Yeah,
much.
you know, uh, if you're a car guy, you want to keep as many as possible. But if you're a non-car guy, you're just like, I just want that one because it's pretty.
How about even do
You
it
know,
like this? If you're a young guy, if you're a young car guy and into tinkering, you maybe keep more. But if you're an older guy
Yeah.
like this guy is, who's retired and was done with everything, he just wanted to ride out the rest of
I
his
know.
life.
Exactly.
He's in that weird position to where he's trying to keep the minimal amount because he's at the retirement age to where he's there to hang out. He doesn't.
Well,
This is a whole new
and
headache this guy's got.
right, exactly. But it's a headache that anybody is willing to take.
Oh my god!
I mean, you
So
can't.
if he took what he made in New York and was able to say live really comfortably in Portugal,
Right.
boy, he is
Yeah.
living. He's high on the horse after selling
Yeah.
this.
I mean, even if he went in and he marked them off into lots, 10 cars
Mhm.
apiece, and finds 6 sellers that buys 10 cars apiece, and for a couple million apiece or whatever, let's say $1 million apiece. He's making 6, 8, maybe 10 million. He's already retired.
Yep.
He just says his wife, "Hey, you want a new Birkin? Let's fucking go get it," or let's go to France for the fucking weekend, or that's that guy's troubles are fucking over.
Done.
You know,
No more
and
at all.
and yeah, you're not gonna sell it all tomorrow,
Nope.
but that's a fun journey to have to actually sell that allotment of vehicles.
I don't know. That Saudi prince you got videos of, he might be interested in going in there and be like, hell, you know what? I'll just offer you 20 million for the whole lot. You don't have to worry about nothing. I'll send the
Like,
trucks and cranes and ships and we'll snatch it all up.
doors open, I'll leave the light on for you, boys. Come on in.
My interests are there's a few Mercedes in there, the Austin Healey's and the Porsches. That would be exactly what I'd go for because those are, I mean, Austin Healey's. There wasn't even a ton of those even made.
Well, Austin Healey was bigger in Europe. You got to remember it's Spain, which is and I think this guy is like.
Yeah, but we live in an internet world now. So just because something's here doesn't mean it doesn't go somewhere else. That's why these barn finds are harder and harder to find anymore, right? Because you don't just drive down the road. Anyone, they can jump on the internet and say, "Hey, this is what I got," and you've got 50 million people looking at it.
Yeah, and everybody going, "I got a couple bucks." We've all heard the story of, and it's the same story, just a different chapter each time, of the guy that, some lady's like, "Just get it out of my fucking barn," and it's a fucking Countach in mint condition. She doesn't know what it is, and it's timing, it's luck, call it what it is. I was actually telling you, we were talking about before the show. We were talking about the Grand National. This guy, he bought 4 semi truck trailers. They were in a field, and this guy had bought the field. The trailers were locked up with padlocks on it, and he was like, just get them out of here. And the guy's like, I'll give you $50 a piece. So he bought these 6 trailers, and they were in good shape. The tires were bad on them. So they dragged them out, and before they dragged them out, they're like, well, let's see what's in them. And one of them had a 12-mile. It only had 12 miles on it, or 12 or 200 or 1,200 or something like that. Extremely low miles, like under 20,000 miles. Grand National, with the wrapping still on the seats. And as you and I said before, the Grand National is one of those cars, like, they're not everybody's cup of tea, but they were gorgeous, and they're fucking monsters. For a V6 turbocharged car back in 86, when turbos were nobody knew what the fuck they were. Like, and the F-body cars, they don't really go straight because their suspension was shit, but F-body cars are gorgeous cars, especially if they're done right. And it all came down to the guy was in the right place at the right time, and he had the money, and the seller was like, just get it the fuck out of here.
Lucky.
There was a guy that I was just telling you about. A guy the other day. He found 3 cars in a old warehouse, and 2 of them were Corvettes, like 81 Corvettes. One of them had 1,000 miles on it, and the other one had 200 miles on it. And then the other was like a Mach 1 Mustang, 79 or something like that. It was real weird looking Mach 1s. And it had like 10,000 miles on it. And they
It's so
had
weird.
and I'm like,
People get this stuff, and it's like, what happened? Does somebody pass away, or does someone just got so much money that they forget even what they have?
well, okay. So excellent point that you bring up. Have you heard about the story? The guy that originally played Dumbledore in Harry Potter. I can't remember his name. The original actor. Unfortunately, he did pass away a couple years. He didn't get to finish the series, but he played Dumbledore in the first movie. One day, somebody was showing him pictures, and there's pictures of him, and there's a picture of him sitting next to a Rolls Royce, and he's like, "When the fuck was that taken?" And they're like, "That's your car." He's like, "I don't own a Rolls Royce." And they're like, "Yeah, you do." Apparently, he had this Rolls Royce in New York in a parking garage for 20 plus years. Completely forgot he owned it, and the guy was showing in the pictures. He's like, "Wait, you still own the car?" He says, "It looks like I had it when I was in New York." So they tracked it down. It was in his old building. It was still sitting in the parking garage, and it sold for like 150 grand. And all it needed was a new battery, new tires.
Yeah.
I'm sure it needed new
change
brakes.
and it's good to go.
And I was like, so you have those out there, like an old man that buys a car, loves it, parks in the garage, and then dies, and his wife doesn't know shit about cars, or his kids don't know shit about cars. They're just like, we just want the garage space, or we just want, this is a burden to us. We don't want to. I'd rather have the money, and I'm like, I'll take the car. Here's $100.
It still happens from time to time, but it's just getting rarer and rare, right? Again, people have more information because of the internet, and can't find. It's super hard to find someone who can't do some mere basic research at this point.
There's a whole channel on YouTube that's actually called Barn Finds.
Yep.
And they literally just drive around and they stop at somebody's house that's got an old barn. Hey, can we look into your barn? And the guy's like, yeah. And they're like, you got a fucking Austin Healey here? And he's like, totally forgot that was there. And they're like, you want to sell it? And he's like, sure. Give me $1,000. And because he's like, I haven't been in this barn in 15 years. My great grandfather was a perfect example. Now the difference is he knew what he had. Like, I kid you not, my great grandfather, he grew up in a town called Coolville, and I think the town had a total of like 200 people in it. Yep. And the closest neighbor was like 5 miles away. And we'd go out to great grandpa's place, and this man knew what he had, but knew where it was. The one day we would go out there and do maintenance on the farm because grandpa was too old to do it. So we'd go out there with the tractor and do the brush hogging on the fields because grandpa was too old to do it, blah, 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 blah. And he says, I kid you not, grandpa was like 92 years old. You could barely understand him, but he's like, hey, when you're doing that field, when you're brush hogging that field out there, be careful because in that stump, in 1989, we put an axe in that stump. It's still there. And fuck if it ain't. I mean, the handle's gone, but the axe head is still in there. And he says, if you go about 20 yards from that axe head into the woods, there's a 49 pickup sitting there. And the 49 pickup was there. It was just a shell at that point. The frame was gone. The motor's gone, but he knew where it was. And I told my dad, I said, why didn't you know about this shit in the fucking 80s when you could have taken this truck out of here, Grandpa had some fucking he had a 4-door 57 Chevy with all the chrome still on it. And the car was so bad that my brother and I went out and we ripped the hood ornament off because that was the only thing worth on the car to keep. And we ripped the hood ornament off so we could keep the hood ornament. And we ended up polishing up that hood ornament and giving it back to Grandpa before he died. But it was like, there's people out there that they're usually in the middle of nowhere, and it's like this thing. This is basically a barn find. You know, if I never fix it up, I still won't sell it. I love this car. If I make enough money to fix it up, I will. But I'll never sell the car. So it might end up being a barn find one day, but that's not the plan. And that's usually how barn finds happen. Something goes wrong with the vehicle. You know, the individual barn find. Something goes wrong with the vehicle. I don't have the money to fix it right now. Let's store it. And when I get the money, I'll fix it. Or you forget, or you die, or something happens. And then your kid's stuck with this car going, what the fuck do I do with it? I don't care about it. You know, it's Dad's old car, you know.
So
And
I think going forward in the future, obviously there's only so many old cars left. There's a finite number. It just is what it is. But say in like 50 years, I think our barn finds are going to be like Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Porsches. That's going to be the next evolution because nobody's looking for a barn full of Honda Civics and Toyota Corollas.
well, on that same side of that same coin, if you guys, somebody's got like an MR2, a Toyota MR2, or even, you know,
You can say like a Honda Civic SI, Honda Civic
Right.
Type R,
right,
Honda S2000. But I'm talking about those are like specific models, just in general.
right.
You know,
Yeah, you're gonna find a lot of fucking shitty old Buicks and a lot of fucking cars that nobody cares about.
BMW like 325s or something. You know, some like shit that isn't worth fixing up. But eventually, man, we're going to get into like Supras, RX-7s, Lamborghinis,
Well, the
Ferraris.
people are finding
Porsches.
Supras now. People find
Yeah,
Supras.
but I think, but you got to think the generation that's buying those up now is going to be the generation that eventually puts them in a barn and doesn't
Yeah.
sell them. And then the new generation that's like, oh my God, this is, you know, a Super from 1993. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because right now, 93, that's an old car.
Yeah.
In another 30, 40 years, man. But it's like, where do you get parts for it? You know, especially if it's highly modified with HKS and Greddy and stuff, you know.
Well,
It's
see,
like,
that's the weird thing is like, we saw in the video that those barn finds, those are all stock. They're not modified. You know, the race cars are a little bit modified, but parts, are hard to find. But you can find remodeled parts, or you can upgrade or something like that. But when you talk about like what I have planned for this, some of the parts they never made. They make them now. So if that company goes out of business, you can't buy that part anymore. So you have to make it from scratch or something like that. So I see what you're saying.
Some people, you know, like a lot of people who do restorations, some of these parts are just so hard to find. Like with the motors, you just stick a whole new motor in it that doesn't even belong with that car because it's just not worth the time, the hassle, the effort, nor the money that you just can't recoup from the car.
Well, and here's the other thing is like in 50 years, you're going to find a Tesla Cybertruck sitting in somebody's old barn.
Yeah.
And, you know, it'll be interesting to see the modifications that you do to get that running again. You know what I mean?
Like, yeah, we should be well into because I would assume. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, it might just be a yard ornament for someone, you know, because our stuff will be so far advanced. I think at the end of the day, everyone's going to want the petrol, right? At the end of the day.
Agreed. I think I don't think electric vehicles are the future like everybody says they are, because the technology is not there, and according to some experts, it never will be, because battery life is not going to get any longer than it already is. And
no, I mean, the day you use it, it automatically starts to die.
Yeah, and you can only recharge something so many times, and then you get, what are they charging for a battery for one of them Teslas? Like 80 grand. or
It's a
28
lot.
grand or something like that. It's
It's a lot.
ridiculous. Where we're like, fuck it, for that kind of money, I'll rip the battery out and I'll throw a fucking LS in it and call it a day.
Yeah, because I don't know what they're going to start doing once these things kind of reach their lifespan. They're just going to be. I don't even know how you scrap them.
Well, they don't. There's supposedly a pile. I saw a video once. There's a company, they had like 15 used Tesla batteries. They're like, there's nothing we can do with it. It's toast.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I don't know what you do.
They're not quote unquote environmentally friendly as everybody says they are. You can't get
Not
your money.
environmentally friendly to even make.
Well, not only that, you can't get your money back. You'll never get your money back out.
Nope. It's
So
not like an engine where you can rebuild it and then sell it off.
Well, it's like if you went out and you found a 69 Hemi Cuda. Right now, they're worth so much that you could spend a shit ton of money fixing it up, drive it till the wheels come off, fix it up again, and then sell it and get every dime you put in it back because they're so rare. That won't happen on a Tesla. That won't happen on your with the Leaf, because the parts are so expensive, and nowadays everything's a throw it away, buy a new one style.
Well, you got to think also with electric cars, so we're supposedly supposed to be getting another Holy Trinity, which if people don't know what the Holy Trinity is, it's McLaren, Ferrari, Porsche, right?
Right.
So Porsche has already leaked theirs. It's called the Mission X. Spec freaking tacular. But the next evolution of these cars have to be mostly electric. To me, honestly, I think the next Holy Trinity needs to be all electric for it because they've had the electric hybrid and then all. So the only one, so the LaFerrari and the McLaren P1 are both petrol with electric. The Porsche was the only one that didn't have it.
And the petrol version of that is just, it's like, what's that BMW 8 or it has a 4-cylinder in it, but it's got 1,000 horsepower electric motor in it, and the 4-cylinder just charges the battery.
Yeah, dude, have you not seen the Mission X?
No, I haven't.
Oh man, what a spectacular beauty! But the problem with you get electric cars, right? So take electric cars. Let's take that that Porsche Mission X in 50 years versus a 63 Corvette, and you let them sit for 50 years. You don't do anything. You just let them sit.
Oh, that is
all day long. All day long, you have to go with the Corvette over the Porsche over the Mission.
Oh yeah,
X
because the battery's not going to work, and the electronics are going to be fried.
Nope, there's nothing you can do. So it's going to be interesting with these barn finds and what they can do with batteries, because you take like a McLaren P1, dude, the battery is like $100 and something $1,000.
It's ridiculous.
For a fucking tiny little battery. It's not even that big. Oh, look at that thing, dude. Oh my God.
That is pretty.
It is fucking immaculate.
But my thing is this is, and I've mentioned it a couple of times, and I know it's kind of a toss away thing. BMW, as much as we all hate BMW, they are coming out with that hydrogen fuel. Now, right now, it's stupid expensive. It's like $10 a gallon, but it's basically water, and it puts out, it's like 93 octane. So it's technically renewable. And I wish I had the video, but there's a short video that Donut Media did where they showed how they actually create it. They actually pull the water and the hydrogen and all that stuff from the atmosphere. And then when the car its exhaust actually puts the elements back into the atmosphere. It's like zero waste, and you get energy out of it. I think it's a 1% waste. So you can technically reuse the fuel if you were able to recapture it and use it all in one system. You could use a gallon of that fuel for like 10 years.
Yeah, but they've had the same technology with petrol engines, but they won't allow us to have it.
And that's the other thing. It's like And I think it comes down to there's a little bit too much government restriction.
100%.
And when it comes down to, if you say this
Hold on,
new
so I
fuel,
don't know, man. So it's kind of like a blurry, right? Is it too much
it's a little bit
government
of both.
involved, or
It's a
is
little bit of both.
big business not wanting, not allowing us
To
to
share
stretch our
profit.
dollar out because they're
Well,
looking to capture more of our money?
right, and it comes down to one thing. It's like if you say fuel or petrol or whatever, gas, people automatically go, it's bad for the environment. The people that don't know any better. And once again, you say fuel, I'm like, I'm in. I light it on fire and it goes faster. That's what I want.
Yep.
You know, but anytime you say fuel, the eco warriors get out there and they're like, oh fuck it, it's electric. It's not electric, it's shit. Well, but this 1 gallon of fuel you can last for 6 months or a month or whatever. That's way more efficient than what your Tesla is or your electric vehicle.
And this goes to show you that they're not smart enough to do research. That technology has been out since the 50s and 60s for cars to get.
Well, you
big
saw that
V8 vehicles getting 500, 600, 700 miles, on
you
a fuel
sent
tank.
me you sent me that video. The guy took a V8 fucking Lincoln
Yep.
from like 79. This thing is like 2 football fields long. You can't turn
Yep.
it around in a 40-acre field. And he got 28 miles to the gallon
Yep.
just by building his own carburetor.
Yep.
28 miles to the gallon in a 79, where mostly it was 28 gallons to the mile back then.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. And the big three, let's say the big three killed him off, but I doubt it was the government. And then the guy that built the water powered buggy back in the 80s, he got poisoned.
Yep.
So
all of them, I think it was like just 1 or 2 of them. All of them got killed.
Well, and the one guy, he built a motor, and the motor got like 49 miles to the gallon.
Yep.
And he sold it. And I think I can't remember who bought it. I think it was one of the big three bought it, and they shelved it.
Yep.
He's like, so I'll be seeing these in the cars next year. And he's like, and they're like, yeah, sign here, sign. Yeah, we're never going to sell this. And they just put it on a shelf.
Yep.
Well, the problem is that was in the 80s.
Yep.
The problem is that he was what, like 50, 60 then in the 80s. So he's probably dead now. So, or even if he's not, he's too old to tell you how he did it. So even if whoever bought it brings it out and says, let's figure out how this works, it's such old technology that nobody knows how to do it.
And one guy specifically designed his notes so no one could interpret it but him.
That's the guy that did water car.
Yeah, and so the other problem with that is too, so if you design something new to be more efficient, you don't, it's really fucked up. The government owns all the rights to it. You don't actually own any of the rights to, and you can't do anything about it. The government owns everything. And it's like, what the freak, man? It's like, how is this legal? And it's like, yeah, you're not allowed to own it, even though you came up with it. And it immediately gets shelved, and the government files the patent, and then they shelve it. It never sees the light of day.
Yeah,
But people are pushing electric, and it's like, guys, we could have had a great ozone. If you're saying that this is what's destroying our ozone for the last 50, 60 years.
Well, I mean, I read a statistic that in order for here it's an interesting question in this statistic. What's more efficient? A Tesla, brand new Tesla 2024, or a brand new 2024 Honda Civic?
I would say the Civic, for what you're getting in return for the money you're spending. I think probably overall you're getting a better deal with like a Honda Civic.
It's more environmentally friendly to buy a Honda Civic and drive it for 30 years, 20 years, than it is to buy a Tesla and drive it for 6 months.
Yeah.
because the mining involved, it's child labor. No matter what anybody says, it's a bunch of kids digging in the dirt to find this lithium,
Yep.
even though they say it's not.
Oh,
There's pictures of it
just go
proving it.
watch video on it, people. It is.
Yeah.
They have destroyed hundreds of thousands of acres.
Yeah, and like if
There's
you
no
look at the
regulations in those countries either.
yeah,
They're like,
exactly.
dig a fucking hole and oh well.
And on top of that, let's say even if you did it on a proper mining style where it was machinery, that machinery uses diesel fuel.
Yep.
And then you got to haul it from wherever you got it to where it goes.
Yep.
That's diesel fuel, usually by train or truck or whatever. And then, we build these in the States. Well, you got to ship it to the States. That's a boat. That's more diesel fuel.
Yep.
And then, so just
your
to make one Tesla,
your employees are using gas. You're not going to have
Get back and forth
100% workforce using electric vehicles.
yeah, at the end of the day, the Honda Civic, I can build a Honda Civic out of scrap metal in my fucking yard.
That's basically what the Honda Civic is.
It's a fact. And because to build a traditional gas-powered vehicle, there's not a lot of shit you need. I mean, look at the 32 Ford. 32 Ford is the most simple vehicle. I think it's got 4 wires in the entire thing.
Yep.
And granted, technology in newer cars with computers and all that stuff, a lot of it's not needed. I get it, but if you're looking to save the planet, so to speak, the electric vehicle is not the way to do it. I don't fucking care what.
It's currently not the most economical nor environmental way to go currently.
Well, and the price of them are insane. I mean, shit, for the price of the Tesla, I could go out and buy 2 Honda Civics. And then both me and my wife have a car that's more efficient than the Tesla. So it's,
Well,
and I
something's
get
got to change. Something's got to change with the electric market because number one selling vehicle in America is a truck, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now you've got Subaru.
Well, you get that.
Is it Subaru? And it's not Toyota. Toyota's not releasing in America. It's Subaru and somebody else. They're getting ready to release an $8,000 truck.
Really?
That's going to destroy.
Yeah, but you know what's going to happen? That car will be released, and it'll be $8,000 for about 4 minutes.
That's okay. So you just go and sell all the pre-orders.
Because here's what's going to happen. The U.S. government's going to bail out the fucking U.S. automakers, and they're going to add a tariff on that vehicle of $20,000. So now it's a $28,000 vehicle.
Yeah, I mean,
and then you got the dealer markup. It just went to $35,000.
Yeah, I don't know. These trucks are so basic. I think that they're meeting the minimum standards.
Okay.
And that's kind of it. So the Subaru is the Subaru Brat they're coming back out with.
Okay.
And I can't remember the other one. Maybe it was Suzuki. I can't remember. So Toyota was coming one, but they're not releasing it here. They're only releasing it in third world countries, second and third world countries. Then Subaru's coming out with one, and there's one other one. I just can't remember the name.
You know what? That Brat is not ugly.
Nope. Looks pretty decent. Well, there's a couple of different renderings. We have it because there's a couple that's kind of like, Then there's a couple of them that look really good.
I have 2 here.
Is it the one with the like double headlights going down or whatever?
Well, these are what I found, and I'll add both of them here, and we can kind of compare.
There's one that like headlights are kind of like a snarl. I don't really like it too much.
Found this one.
That one looks good,
but it won't look like that when it comes out. And then I found this one.
See, that's nothing more. I don't really care for that.
That looks like the old version.
Looks like a Baja.
Yeah, it's the 70s.
That looks really good though.
I do. I like that. But it's like the real one won't look like that. That is 100% set up for show, not go.
Oh, absolutely. But they said they're going to be able to tow like 1,000 pounds, 1,200 pounds. So there's going to be some. They're not going to have double cabs. It's going to be as big. They're talking about manual roll down windows.
You say that, but then they have this. This is an advertisement for the Subaru Brat, and it's a 4-door.
Oh shit! I guess they changed. Oh, damn, the back looks ugly.
Yeah, it does. It looks like somebody took a Subaru Forester and cut the top off.
Oh, what have they done? So they got a 2025, 2026 release date on them. So
Yeah.
that's good. And a sub $10,000
Well,
truck. I mean,
right.
honestly,
And are they going to be electric?
no, they're all like
Okay.
4-cylinder motors.
Which is fine for me. You know,
Yep.
I don't need like your average everyday guy that buys a truck will really do truck shit in it. No. So you don't need the big fuck off V8 as much as we all want it. You don't really need it. You're not going to now if you like it's like the assholes about that Ford Lightning that is electric. And then they complain that it can't tow their own boat. That's on you. You bought an electric vehicle. What did you expect? So
Yeah, I don't know.
you know, well, and that's my thing. Anybody that's had a remote control car and tried to tow something behind it, what happens to the battery? It dies faster.
Yep.
So you went from let's say 400 miles of range down to 200 miles of range.
Yep.
Which means if you're going to the lake and it's 400 miles away, you got to stop halfway there and have fucking breakfast.
And problem number one arises: no infrastructure.
Yeah. That's the other problem. No, don't even get me started on the infrastructure. So I don't, like I said, I don't see electric vehicles as going good because even if you build the infrastructure, the grid can't handle it.
I think it could, but here's the other problem, right? You can't. It's not like going and filling up your car full of gas. It's not. Give me 3 minutes. I'm gonna fill my tank up and I'm out. That doesn't exist in electric. That is impossible to exist in
But it
electric.
could. You know, it's not impossible. It should because there is a vehicle.
Oh well,
and
I know what you're going to say, and
that the
is a
replaceable
whole other
battery thing.
infrastructure product that has to be solved.
Why isn't that the way they're doing this? The
I
switchable
think you're going
battery.
to have massive. I honestly, to pull that
I
off,
just say pull it
I
to
think you
Walmart,
have
pick
to
up
have
5,000 double A's and call it a day.
Well, I think you have to have all the governments have to have their say into what these manufacturers do with electric cars.
It needs to be somewhat regulated.
Unanimously across the board, you're allowed to produce 4 different types of batteries. That's it. You cannot produce one this way. It can't. You're going to have to stick with this battery for the next
and the
5
charger
or
has
8
to be
years.
interchangeable, just like the gas.
Yes.
bill.
Well, you can buy the adapters, right? No big deal.
Yeah, but
I think once you have to go in, they have to go in and say for the next, let's say minimum 10 years, we have to stick with this battery, and this is the only battery you're allowed to produce for the next 10 years. On the 11th year, no problem. But if you plan on producing, let's say, 600,000 cars, well, you have to put 1.2 million batteries out into the world, right? For us to be able to change them out. That's the only way the math works. And does that, how could they possibly, but at the end of the day, you're talking about adding money to a car. So you're talking about taking a $20,000 car, making it 50 grand right there, because the company's not going to pay for all those extra batteries. That's got to be put into the system. You're like, fuck you. So,
yeah.
What's the thumbs up thing? My phone's weird. Yeah.
I wish I knew how you did that because I'm like, I
have
want
no
that.
clue. It's so random. But I think that's the problem with electric is the infrastructure, right? It's not a fast charge, but the solution is like you said, go underneath the system, it drops, it goes in, unbolts yours, sticks a new battery pack in. But the only way that gets paid for is if you're willing to take a $20,000 car and make it 50,000. That's it. There's no other way to do it.
But in that same sale of the $50,000 car, you don't buy one battery, you buy 2. But you don't get the second battery. Your second battery actually goes to a charging
program.
Yeah,
that's exactly it.
Your second battery goes to a charging program.
Correct. But that's it. So again, you're taking affordability out of it for people who are in the sub $30,000 cars. They can't quite, and that's always been the problem with electric, right?
I get that.
Always been the problem with electric.
I'm not. I will never be like. I will probably be the last asshole on the planet to buy an electric vehicle.
I mean, I want one. As much as I travel, I want
one.
I
think the Cybertruck is a fucking gorgeous vehicle.
I totally want to get one.
I want one, but I don't want it electric. I want one that's been slightly fucked up, and the battery's fucked up, so I could actually put an LS in it and call it a day.
Yep.
But I will be the same asshole, like, haha, I got a full tank of gas. The cops can chase me until their battery dies, and then I'll get away. And all I got to do is 30, you know. So it's
a weird scenario. We live in a weird time, right?
Yeah, and there's no solution. At least
there's no cheap solution.
Right. Well,
and
there's 50 solutions, but there's no feasible one.
Correct. It's really hard to replace an infrastructure that has been around since the early 1900s and say, hey, we're gonna.
Which is funny because that's when electric cars were introduced.
The first vehicle I think was electric, right? Yeah, it just ran.
Well, actually, the first vehicle was steam.
Steam, yes, correct.
Yeah,
but electric was kind of like these weird looking little batteries. It was only just a couple of them.
There were basically a couple of coconuts, and you'd go 4 miles and have to switch out the coconut.
But yeah, it's so weird because we need to, and I don't mind the upgrade, right?
I don't either.
Upgrading it to something else, but it's man the sheer commitment, and I really hate that the government has to get involved because the only way the government can spend money on something is when they take it from people like me who don't even own a fucking electric car. So it's like, why do I got to pay for that?
Well, and that's the other thing is like the biggest problem I'm seeing with these, you know, electric vehicles is there's rumors that there's a kill switch in them, where if you fuck up, the government can just shut off your car. Yeah, they can't do that with my gas-powered car because you got to reach into the window because I still have 2 keys.
Well, they do that all the time. Well, they can still do that on a newer motorized vehicle. They get stolen. They call OnStar, hey,
I get that.
Shut this car down, bloop, it shuts down. You're not causing, you know, casualties and wrecks and property damage.
And I get that, but it's like and I hate to go whole political about it, but there's like China has this whole what is it, social credit score.
Yep.
Like if you there was a great episode about it on the Orville TV show, where if you do something stupid like I nut slap you, my social credit score just went down, and if it gets down low enough, the government just shuts down my car, so I can't start it.
Yeah.
So, which I'm 100% against because fuck it, if I want to pack a cigarettes at 2:00 in the morning and it's 40 miles to get there, I'm gonna take my car. You know, I'm not gonna walk. So I don't think I would. I no matter what, they've yet to come out with an electric vehicle that I'm like, I 100% have to have that. Like there's no other option. My life's goal is to buy that electric vehicle. And it would only come down to something like the Cybertruck looks really cool.
Yep.
Where I'd be like, okay, I want one.
I don't know, man. Have you not seen the new DeLorean?
I'm not a fan. I
like it.
I want the old one.
And you know what's really funny is I think that's the proper evolution for that car to be electric.
Agreed.
Like that's 100%. If they did another motor in that car today, I'd have been like, "You're gonna win electric," because that's kind of where it should have went.
Well, and it makes sense because it's an iconic car. You know, no matter what, every time anybody sees a DeLorean, whether it's in stock form or it's modified to look like the Back to the Future car, everybody says Back to the Future, even though that's not how the car actually started. That car was almost dead by that point. But
I love that car. I love everything.
It's a beautiful car.
Oh man, it was a Cybertruck before the Cybertruck.
It was the Cybertruck of its day, and I think missed opportunity by Elon not to make it gull-wing doors on the Cybertruck, but you know,
I think he already did it one time on that car and said it was too impractical. He didn't want to do it again.
Well, he did. Yeah, he did it on that the X.
Yeah, and he said it was just too impractical. He said it was a waste of resources. I think they got rid of it.
Yeah, but by making the Cybertruck bulletproof, that was a good waste of resources.
Yeah, because if you can get a couple government contracts, right?
And I think that's where he was going with that, because
sure,
I know the government's looking into electric vehicles for the field.
Yep.
I think it's a huge mistake, but I can see where they're thinking it. It kind of makes sense on a business model. As a soldier, I'd be like, yeah, no, I'll take the Hummer. Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
you, yeah, you guys go ahead. I'll be there waiting with a beer when you get there. Um, but going back to the barn find thing, um, just kind of wrap up for the night show. If
Yep.
you were to find an electric vehicle or find your dream car in a barn find, it comes down to, at this point in time in history, it's pure unadulterated luck. It's not skill. It's not something you can like here. It sounds silly, but one of my most coveted vehicles I've always wanted is a 92 Mustang, a hatchback. I don't know why. I just think it's a cool car.
Yep.
I can't get them here. There's one here, and it's an 86. Is the only Mustang hatchback of its style in Cancun. I'm never going to find one in a barn. So, at least here. So, finding a barn find that's worth a damn anymore is 100% unadulterated luck. It is not, it no matter how much research you do, it comes down to they're few and far between anymore.
Yep.
Would you
Internet.
agree? Yeah.
It's
Well,
internet.
not even the internet, because like some old lady's got this, 89 Cadillac sitting in her fucking garage that she doesn't even have a computer. She doesn't even have a cell phone. So she somebody's just waiting on for her to die so they can
Yeah, but
inherit the
that's what I
house.
mean. It's the internet, right? Just because you don't have a computer doesn't mean that old lady doesn't have,
A grandson.
granddaughter or something. And then these people are smart enough to know how to resell or how to look things up. And it's just not, back in the day, you needed someone's phone number. You're flipping through the yellow pages and the
Or
white
you're
pages.
knocking on doors.
Correct. It's just not so much information is at our fingertips within mere seconds now.
Yeah.
So there's whole entire people make their entire income off of reselling. They don't
Oh
go
yeah.
to jobs. They're at yard sales and they're at restores and all this stuff, and they're making pretty decent livings. It's pretty wild. So that's like you said, the barn finds are only going to get slimmer and slimmer, and we might hit like a patch to where you don't hear anything, and then all of a sudden it's like the
Somebody finds
Ferraris, the
50 of them.
Lamborghinis,
Yeah.
the Porsches, the Supras are back again. But I think it's going to be mostly European foreign cars.
Well, you'll
Because,
also you'll also find a bunch of 80s cars. There were some cool cars in the
correct.
80s. Not
Yep.
you're not going to find your really holy shit moments,
But
but
you
you'll
got to think
find
who we're talking about, though. You got to think
yeah.
like mine and your kids, right?
Yeah.
Their supercars are the Lamborghinis, Porsches, and Ferraris. So when that hits, that's the age of people that's going to be looking for this. Like, oh my God, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because right now, a F4 or a Ferrari 430 is what I really want. I want a 458. They're unattainable in price. Well, the
Yeah.
458 is, but in 30, 40 years, that's going to be a pretty affordable car for someone who is looking that doesn't mind fixing a couple panels, a couple electric issues. Yeah, those cars are going to
Well,
get more and more
it
affordable, right?
like yeah, because you'll get the guy like you or me that buys it, then dies, and his wife's like, "Fuck, I hated this car since he bought it," and
Yep.
she's like, "Just get it out of my driveway." So
Yep.
I see that. I do see what you're saying.
Yep.
But the problem is when it comes to a barn find, it's not what you know, it's who you know and what you happen to get lucky enough to find.
Yeah.
And if you are unlucky to find the car of your dreams that is owned by somebody that knows what the fuck they're doing, yeah, you're still not getting that car.
Yeah, and you
But
also got to think too, man. There's less barns nowadays.
yeah, well, yeah,
You got
and we
millions
use
of
the
people
term
that are living in cities, that are living in
right.
little square cubes and rectangle cubes. They have no land. Some of them don't even own cars because they just commute to work through the
Yeah,
subway station or whatever. So the government, man, I can't remember what it was. They've even put restrictions on neighborhoods going up that they don't even want single family homes anymore. They want, apartment or,
like
like
apartment
condo
complex.
style, apartment style, townhouse style, because they want you right on top of each other so they can get the most amount of people in the least amount of space. So it's just not like it was 30, 40, 50 years ago where people had 4 or 5 buildings because they were farming. They also went and worked in a warehouse during the day. They made some, there's less of that
Yeah,
there's
there's
less of
less
that
and less
being built.
hobby farms, so to speak. Yeah,
Yeah, there's
and
less of that being built,
it's
and it's just
it's
all
it's
kind of it's
almost a
weird.
sad moment. It's almost a sad moment in history, not just for the
Yep.
car industry, but for you know finding. And it's not just cars.
Yep.
I mean, you and I've both been to to like garage sales where
Yep.
you'll find old tools that
Yep.
like the hand crank drills and stuff like. You can't find those.
No,
I mean,
badass
usually,
neon signs and
yeah,
oh man, some
it.
yeah.
If my wife would let me, whew, there's a place in Vegas. It's called there's a place in Europe and France as well. It's called the Neon Sign Graveyard,
Okay.
and it's literally like old Coca-Cola signs and neon signs that say you drive through and all this stuff. And I can get them like for pennies, because
Wow.
and they work. And they're bolted to the wall, plug the fucker in, it's ready to go. My wife won't let me buy them. And I'm like, I get it. Who wants a 4-foot, drive-through sign on the side of their house? I do. And she's like, no,
Yep.
what are you, an asshole? So, and
And that's the
so
problem. Where did you used to keep things like that at? In a barn.
you've been a barn, yeah. And
Yeah,
now
you
you
just
don't have to.
You just don't have that.
Well, it's like I don't know about you, but like when I was a kid, I had the wall of chrome in my bedroom, where it was just a bunch of fucking hubcaps and bumpers and grills that I found, cleaned up and bolted to the fucking wall.
Yeah.
Once again, I'm in that adult stage where my wife won't let me have shit like that for good reason, because I would have it on every wall. But like the plan right back here behind me, you can actually see where I'm actually getting ready to put my shop. It's the space in between the two houses that
Yep.
I own. And that's going to be like, she's like, whatever you put in there, that's your deal. I'm like, oh, I'm going to have a wall of chrome.
Well, you also got to think too, man. So I keep saying that we're having less and less barns, but there's a greater problem too. We have less and less people going into trades in general.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like a trickle down effect, right? So if you're not into trades, why do you need a barn? It's kind of the
Right.
first world. This first world's getting more first world to where it's
Well,
more hands off.
Yeah. And I don't know if you've seen the video of the robot that killed itself.
No.
So I can't remember the company, but it was like a company built this robot that was its job was to take stuff off a conveyor belt and put it on a shelf. It did the job for 20 minutes and decided that the job was worthless, and it was worthless, so it shut itself off. So it's like the job. The reason why they had this robot doing it was because
This is real?
Oh, this is a real thing. I'll send you the video clip.
So the only way that robot could do that is if it was sentient.
It had a built-in AI on it, and this was like a year ago. This happened.
So
I think we
so
talked
it
about it on
became
Nonsense for Nonsense.
sentient?
I don't know if it was sentient, but it had.
In order for it to make a decision,
But it literally shut itself off.
decision,
And my wife just sent me a
That's-
video the other day
that's crazy.
of a robot that it had the ability to shut itself off. It walked 14 steps and went, "What's the point?" and shut itself off.
Aye. Sure.
So it's, and so
we've been asking ourselves that forever.
and I was like, why can't I shut myself off? But it's like, so
What's the point? Are you trying to get
when they get to the point where a robot can do a job, there's no point for people to be in the trades. And I think 100% that the biggest problem comes down to less and less people are being introduced to a job that you can do with your hands and be happy. Like, whether it be shop class or auto shop or something like that in school, where you could actually learn to change your own oil, all that stuff. and get into
Yep.
that field. And it's a sad thing because now
Super sad.
and you can't even do that with quote unquote old cars right now, because even to work on the 97 Eclipse that's sitting here, to reprogram the computer, I don't know how to do it. I have to find somebody to do it, and they're few and far between where I am. So it's and you look at something like a brand new Chevy Silverado, there's more fucking electronics in that thing than 4 of these Eclipse put together. And you need a
Probably just in the stability system alone is probably more
exactly.
electronics than that whole car.
And you have to have like a science, like an engine, not a computer degree to work on your car. Where when you and I were growing up, you know, if your suspension breaks, well, I guess I'm out there in the shop, I'm ripping out the suspension, I'm figuring out how to put in a new one. You can't do that anymore because there's 4 billion sensors on your car.
Yep, and then you got to reset the whole computer or that part of the computer, and then you know, even if you have the car or you have like these mechanics are spending big money on these computers that they're to hook up, and they're not like a DIY anymore.
Well, and like I
think some of you can't even like literally change a battery
Well,
anymore.
no, I saw one thing, and this was like 10, 15 years ago, when Mercedes came out with their new car. If you disconnect the cigarette lighter, the car wouldn't start.
Yep.
So you would spend 4 hours to figure out your cigarette lighter fuse is blown. So it's working on cars is getting into a hobby of working with tools is not the start anymore.
Correct.
Where that was the start for a lot of people. So it's like a weird, how do you get people into tools? Well, you can't be into fucking cars because you can't change a tire without having to disconnect 4 sensors.
Correct.
So and I actually think I found a solution, and it's buying old tools and fixing them.
There you go.
Like, one of my favorite things to do is watch Adam Savage on Tested. He's got his YouTube channel. He bought a power hacksaw, which I was like, isn't that like a bandsaw? And it's literally a hacksaw that's hooked up to a wheel that literally slowly cuts metal, and it's more precise than your top of the line bandsaw.
Wow.
And like it was, he cut a piece, and he basically made like what looks like a coin now, but like he said, if I would have done this on the lathe, yeah, it would have been just as clean, but it would have been just off. Or like this thing was super in it, and it's like the tool was built in '67.
Insane, isn't it?
And it's like, so newer is not always better. So, but in order to get that saw that power hacksaw to work, he had to take it apart and redo it. And one of my favorite things to do, besides watching him, is watch the guys that restore old tools and old things. Oh my gosh, you want to talk about ASMR. Just the one guy I watch, he builds, like if he needs a new bolt, he'll take a piece of round stock and build a new bolt from scratch. And it's just like, I want to know how to do that. And like, my son's like, why do you watch this? And I'm like, because it's fucking awesome. He's like, why don't you just go buy a new bolt? I said, well, there's some fun in that. And he's like, yeah, I don't get it, Dad. And I was like, you know what? Until you actually, and I think that's the problem, until you actually build something or fix something and make it work, get your hands dirty, there's that satisfaction that you and I had working on cars or working on whatever growing up isn't there for this new generation. And it's a sad thing.
It is super sad. And I make really good money right now. I can only imagine if I was my age 15, 20 years from now, the amount of money I could make doing what I do, it's probably triple. It's probably going to be triple my salary right now. And it's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
How and I feel really good about how much someone with my experience is going to make knowing
Well,
that it's like
and
these guys are, it takes a special person to do what I do, and it's like I want these people to do this if there's going to be less people in there because it's such a weird, difficult niche job that I was
right.
like, I want you guys to make all the money you can make. As long as you're putting out a good product, I want you guys to rake it in.
Well, and that's the caveat to it. It's like uh the guys that can do it right the first time, and on whatever it is they're working on, whether it's building a deck or building a chair or what you do, or like what I do. Anybody and their brother with a mouth can do what I do. A monkey can do my job if they can speak. The difference is I make really good money. But I have the opposite problem here. For every one job, there's 50 people that can do it here and do it just as good as the next. So because the jobs like what I do online are not available in Mexico. They are, but they're, you English needs to be perfect, blah, 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 blah. And so when it comes down to like the satisfaction you get from doing something nobody else can do but you, when it's working with your hands, there's no better drug on the planet.
It's good stuff, isn't it?
And it's just like what was it the other day? My freezer fan decided to stop working, and anybody else in my entire town was like, well, let's fucking call the repairman. I took apart the freezer, figured out that the fan was iced up. I defrosted the fan, fucker started working again. My freezer's as cold as ice now.
Damnedest thing, ain't it?
And my son was like, how do you know how to do this? I said, I don't know, I just figured it out. It's a couple of screws. Make sure you put them back where you got them. And especially for there's a guy on YouTube, I can't remember the name of his channel. He shows you all the things that I think it's called something like all the things man should know. Like he'll show you how to change a light socket, how to test, if your light socket's got power, how to use a voltmeter, shit like that. That stuff is lost on today's generation, and it's a terrible thing.
But it's really cool that he takes the time and does a simple little task, right?
Right, and it's like little stuff like that is what people need. Like if for instance, when I bought this house, there's nothing wrong with the house because it's brand new, but I've done so many upgrades to the house, like the plugs that are in the wall, they were 2-prong plugs. Well, a lot of my stuff has the ground wire and stuff like that. So I was able to switch them out, put in 3-prong. If a light switch breaks, I don't have to call somebody to fix it. Calling somebody to fix something stupid simple should not be an option.
Yeah.
Especially if it's just one thing. It's and to use your brain to actually, like, I know how to do this. This is, oh my gosh, this is so easy. I'm going to rewire the house now,
Yeah.
It should be the goal for everybody.
Yep.
And the fact that it's not like, and like, if you don't know how to do something, the beauty of what we have now that our generation didn't have growing up is if you don't know how to do something, there's somebody on YouTube that'll show you how to do it.
Damn sure will be.
And you just got to be willing to put in a little bit of time to learn it.
Yep.
So anyways, that's the end of the show tonight. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks everybody for listening. Thank you for Benji for coming in. I always appreciate you having here because you actually bring up thoughts that I don't have because I'm very simplistic. We are, once again, Jeff's Garage Podcast. We're on the Nonsensical Network every Tuesday at 7 Eastern. Mondays, Men's Caring for Men. Same time, same channel. Tomorrow is What the Fuck News. I already do have a story for tomorrow's show. Thursday is Talking Shit. Friday is Glick's House of Music. Although I think he's doing bi-weekly. And Saturday, of course, is the Open Door Challenge for Nonsensical Nonsense. If you are brave enough, come on in, have a chat, see if you can keep up. And then Sunday is, of course, Jarvis with his podcast. I think he's doing another movie review. Like I said before, if you want to send in your car or your projects for us to review and talk about, you can go ahead and send an email to jeffsgaragepodcast@gmail.com. And of course, here is the Jeff's Garage bio link where you can actually see all our content. And then, of course, we are on the Nonsensical Nonsense Network, the Nonsensical Network, at bio.link/Nonsensical Network. Check us out anywhere you find podcasts. I still have to upload last week's episode. I forgot. So I'll have to do that tonight. We're going to go ahead and play the outro music and then say our outs. So we'll be right back.
She was in a burn rubber and making motors blow. So what the school asked her just how fast she liked to go. She said, how many cubic inches you got where it counts? I told her 125 and she broke my motor mounts. She's a hot rod whore. Hot rod whore. Hot rod whore. Hot rod whore. Hot rod ain't enough for her. She didn't say a word. She's a hot rod whore. Hot rod whore. Hot rod whore. Hot rod whore. And I'm in my rod to pose. She's a hot rod whore. In the bag, she's hot rod whore. Hot rod whore. Hot rod whore. Hot rod whore. She don't need to know your son. Just your token power. She's hot rod whore. Hot rod whore. Hot rod whore. Hot rod whore. Shining my rods up close. She's a hot rod whore. Hot rod.
I do love that song. I don't know why. I just love that song.
Punk
So
rock.
it's actually called Psychobilly is
I like
the
it.
genre. But yeah, that is the end of our show. Benji, what do you got to say to the people?
We got to shut the garage door. You don't got to go home, but you can't stay here.
Amen to that. And I think I'm still working out what I'm going to be start saying, but it's easy. Go out there and go get some work done. Go do something.
Get out of the
Get your hands
house.
dirty.
Get out of the house. and
Never.
do stuff.
Never. Go out to the garage and build something.
There you go.
Yeah. Bye, everybody. And end. Just take